Like I said, good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Temple Health and Bioscience District, I want to thank you for joining our July e-learning series webinar. We have a very exciting talk today. We've got Dr. Patricia, also known as Patsy Sulak, founder of Living Well Aware. Dr. Sulak is a nationally recognized practicing physician, researcher, speaker, and medical school professor. She graduated from the University of Texas Health Science Center at San Antonio School of Medicine and was named a distinguished alumnus. In addition to her busy clinical practice, she presents throughout the country to businesses, organizations, and healthcare institutions on disease prevention through healthy living. Her book, Should I Fire My Doctor? And comprehensive wellness program, Living Well Aware, empower individuals to take ownership of their well-being. We're so excited to have her here today, especially amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. We're going to hear some very exciting tips on wellness, and she'll share these tips that we can all follow to strengthen our immunity and live healthier, happier lives. So before Patsy begins, I invite you all to mute yourselves to avoid interruptions. However, please utilize the chat box to ask your questions, and we'll engage Patsy for a Q&A at about 10 minutes before the close of our discussion today. So with that, without further ado, I will let Patsy take it away.
All right. Thanks, Ashley. I really appreciate this opportunity. And what I'm going to do here is share screen. And there we go. So you can see my slides okay, Ashley?
I can, yes.
Yay. All right. Well, and thank you for that introduction. Let's see if I can get my slides to move now. There we go. I am founder of Living Well Aware, a holistic wellness program. And as Ashley said, I'm author of the book, Should I Fire My Doctor? But the book is not about firing your doctor. In fact, I hope my patients don't fire me. It's actually about taking ownership of your health. That's what the book is all about. And I owe the book to my husband, who made me write it. Sit down and write the book. And after that, we put together a 276-page workbook to go along with it, and then a 52-week wellness assessment planner and journal. And for people who don't read, we have a video and audio course. And right now, my biggest project is working on getting these messages to adolescents. So I'm totally rewriting my adolescent health curriculum, which is used in Temple ISD, Belton, Coppers Cove, Killeen, even in some schools, Dallas, San Antonio. It's used all over the state of Texas, and we're rewriting all of that. So making sure adolescents get these messages. And I am a professor of Texas A&M College of Medicine, and I'm a part-time practicing gynecologist at Baylor Scott & White, and I like to say I'm a recovering obstetrician. And I'm getting a lot more sleep these days. Let's see if I can get my slides to go forward. There we go. The title of this talk is Upping Your Wellness Game, Building Your Defense to Take on Any Offensive Attack. And what I'd like to do is briefly talk about and give you an update on SARS-CoV-2, which causes COVID-19. SARS stands for a severe acute respiratory syndrome, coronavirus 2. And that's the virus that causes the infection, COVID-19. And although this has been around, started in December 2019 in China, it came to the United States. And the biggest report, the first biggest report came out in April in the Journal of the American Medical Association, which is like the premier journal of the world. And they published on 5,700 hospitalized patients, not just patients with COVID. These people were so sick they had to be put in the hospital. And New York was such a mess that you had to be pretty sick to be hospitalized. And these hospitals, let's see if I can move this out of the way. There we go. These hospitalized patients really taught us a lot about the infection. Let's see if I can, there we go. The average age of these hospitalized patients was 63. The range was 0. There was some kids, some babies, you know, that were a few months old that had it, and up to 107. But the average age was 63. 75% of the patients were over 52. And that's what we continue to see. Interestingly, you're more apt to have a severe infection if you're male. 60% of the hospitalizations were male. And the majority of people that were hospitalized had comorbidities. They had other health problems. 57% of them had high blood pressure. 42% of them were obese. 35% had diabetes. So we got to understand that not just in other countries, but in this country, this is the population we're talking about that has severe infection. Now, obviously, the worst outcome is death. Interestingly, in this study of 5,700 patients, that's a lot of hospitalized patients in a short amount of time, there were no deaths under the age of 20. Yes, there have been some people in the United States under the age of 20 die, but it's rare. In this first series of 5,700 hospitalized patients, no deaths under the age of 20. So this is not the Spanish flu of 1918, which was a lot worse. The Spanish flu of 1918 really, killed children, babies, adolescents, young adults. Those were the people that were really hit hard, and we're not seeing that with this bug, thank goodness. Once again, males have higher death rates in all age groups. So we're not exactly for sure what it is, but there's something about being male that's makes you more susceptible to bad consequences of this virus. 75% of the deaths over age 65 in this study. The average age of death of the Spanish flu of 1918 was 28. That was the average age. Look at this. The majority of the deaths are in people over 65. So this was the study that confirmed in the United States that the older you are and the more pre-existing health conditions you have, the greater chance of greater severity of disease. And so once again, let's just make sure to go over the terminology. This bad virus is SARS-CoV-2. And that stands for Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome Coronavirus 2. And so this primarily kills people by attacking the lungs. And COVID-19 is actually the infection. So sometimes we misuse these terms, but if you really want to impress people, SARS-CoV-2 is the bug, COVID-19 is the disease, all right? And so once again, it first emerged in Wuhan, China in December of 2019. And as of July 2020, worldwide, 10 million infected, over 500,000 deaths. But what about the United States? 4 million infected. So 4 million of those 10 million have been in the United States, and 150,000 deaths. Now, to put this in perspective, and wrap your head around this. COVID-19 is going to be the third most common cause of death in 2020. And it's going to be surpassed only by heart disease and cancer. More people are going to die from COVID-19 than diabetes. More people are going to die from COVID-19 than Alzheimer's disease. More people are going to die from COVID-19 than accidents. So when we say, this is bad, we mean this is bad. This is going to be the third most common cause of death. In fact, already there are more people that have died of COVID-19 than will die all year from breast and prostate cancer combined. And by the end of the year, it'll be breast, prostate, and lung cancer combined. So, we expect way over 200,000 deaths by the end of the year with this bug. So people are sometimes say, is this really as serious as we think it is? I hope the figures speak for themselves. All right. So what's the pathophysiology of this? How does it harm us? It actually starts out by killing our lymphocytes. We have got to have these white blood cells to protect us from all sorts of bugs and bacteria, viruses, and other pathogens. So it creates a lymphopenia. In other words, a low white blood cell count. It kills cells, and it incites an inflammation. An incredible inflammation, particularly in the lungs, but in other parts of the bodies. and when we have inflammation, it releases all these chemicals called cytokines and other things. So it creates incredible inflammation. And it also activates our coagulation system. It sets it on fire. And you can develop what we call DIC, or disseminated intravascular coagulation, which is bad. That's when all your clotting factors are being consumed and you can actually get into bleeding problems. But it really messes up the coagulation system and can cause thrombotic complications, i.e. blood clots. This can be blood clots in the brain and causing a stroke and in other areas of the body. And this can even happen in young people. So how do you transmit SARS-CoV-2? By far, we now know this is primarily spread through droplets expelled during face-to-face exposure. And it's not just coughing and sneezing on people. It's you and I talking to each other. And right now, while I'm talking, particles are coming out of my mouth, and you can't see them on the screen, but they're happening. And when you and I talk, that's what happens. And if we're infected with this virus, we're spreading it. And the odds of us getting it depends upon, first of all, are we exposed to somebody for a prolonged amount of time or a brief amount of time? The longer the exposure, the longer you're around someone who has SARS-CoV-2, the greater the chance that you're going to get it. And the greater chance you're going to get it if that person you're exposed to is symptomatic. In other words, they're sick. They have a high virus load, and there's a greater chance that you're going to get it. Now, can you get this from touching surfaces and all? Yes, that probably is another means of transmission. But we now know the droplets are the key. And yes, you may be able to pick this up by touching things and all. And that's why wearing the mask, social distancing, because even when you're talking to people, you can be spreading this. So social distancing, wearing a mask, and washing your hands, okay? Now, the virus shedding actually begins before you have symptoms. So I could have SARS-CoV-2 and I don't know it, and I'm spreading it to you, and then 2 or 3 days later, then I become sick. I didn't know that I had it. And so you can spread the virus before you develop symptoms, while you have symptoms, and for a few days after no symptoms. But once you become asymptomatic, no symptoms, probably several days after that, you're not infectious anymore. So if anybody else has any questions on that later, they can, I can try to answer those. Although, understand, folks, I'm a gynecologist. I'm not an infectious disease expert. I've just read a lot about this bug and a little bit about wellness and what we can do. So what are the symptoms you guys have heard? It's 90% of people will get a fever. They may not even realize it, which is why we're checking everybody's temperature. It's a dry cough, not a productive cough, shortness of breath, fatigue. Some people get NVD, nausea, vomiting, and/or diarrhea. Myalgia are the muscle pains. And you can also get loss of smell and taste. I mean, I know people who've had this, who they're over the infection, they've cleared it and all, and they still haven't gotten their smell back or their taste back. And that may take a while. The complications can be incredible. I know someone who got this in March, and they were hospitalized, and they still haven't gotten all of their lung function back. So some people, it can take quite a while for them to get over it. And unfortunately, some people may have irreversible damage. Hopefully that's not going to be a large percentage. Once again, if you do get infected with this, if you do get COVID-19, the mortality rate in people under age 20 is less than 1 death per 1,000 people that get the infection. You take 1,000 kids that get this infection, not even 1 death, 0.5 deaths really, or like this. If you're age 65, it's 100 deaths per 1,000 infected. If you're over 85, it's greater than 3,000 deaths per 1,000 infected. And once again, if you have comorbidities, health problems, your chance of mortality is much higher. You know, that's why I'm going to encourage everybody, if you ever needed an excuse to get to your normal body weight, if you needed another excuse, you got one now. People that are even just mildly obese, obesity have many, many more times the mortality rate here. So, and I'm happy to say, I even have, friends and family members who have plummeted their weight during this pandemic. So I'm so proud of them. So you want to be in that camp if you're not, all right? So America, we have a problem. We had a problem before the pandemic because although we're one of the wealthiest countries in the world, unfortunately, we are probably one of the unhealthiest industrialized country. We have the highest obesity rate of countries. We have a very high pre-diabetes and diabetes rate. According to statistics, half of American adults have high blood pressure or pre-high blood pressure. Half of them have either pre-diabetes or diabetes. So once again, and this pandemic really brought it out with our mortality rate here in this country, because these pre-existing health problems that we had are now predisposing us to having bad complications from this horrible infection. So the question is, what can we do? And that's where the good news comes in. There is so much we can do to lower our risk of having a bad complication from this infection. And these things that we can do also lower our risk of all the other common causes of death. Because the number one killer of Americans is cardiovascular disease, and number two is cancer. All these things I'm going to be talking about lower our risk of those also. So, and this is what Living Well Aware is all about. And that's why I've been getting a lot of speaking engagements during this pandemic to speak to businesses, organizations, school districts, because people are realizing, wait a minute, we need to up our wellness game. And so if it takes a pandemic for us to do it, let's do it. But now we have an amazing reason for us to up our game. So what I want to do is slam dunk what I would consider 7 things that you can do. Number one is we can eat real food. Real food. Like I used to eat on the farm and ranch. I was born and raised on a farm and a ranch up the road in Hill County outside of Hillsboro. A middle of 7 kids to parents who didn't make it past the 6th grade. And we had a huge garden, and that chicken we were eating had been walking in the yard a couple of hours before. So we had all this real food and fresh food. And today we can find ourselves living off processed food, and we can find ourselves living off fast food. Even these things we call comfort foods, which are anything but comfort. They're not creating comfort, they're creating disease. And so this is a time for us to all up our food consumption and eat real food. And I and my husband started this wellness journey. Actually, it was 12 years ago in April 2008 when he drugged me to a wellness conference kicking and screaming. I didn't want to go. My husband, Dr. Wagner, is a surgeon here at Baylor Scott and White, and he drugged me to this wellness conference. So 12 years ago, we started changing our eating habits and eating real food. And I'm not a vegan, all right. But I do have a ranch. I own cows, and I do eat some of them, but not as many. And my cows are much happier now. But we really focus on eating a plant-based diet. And there's no doubt, if you look at the people who live the longest in the world, they are eating a plant-based diet. Most of them aren't vegans, but that's what their food primarily is. Number 2, glycemic control is key here, folks. Not only in fighting this pandemic, but lowering our risk of other diseases. And by glycemic control, I mean blood sugar control, glycemic, glucose, because we now know that pre-diabetes, diabetes increases our risk for infection. And we're seeing this with the pandemic, with diabetics being at much greater risk for bad complications and even death. And that's why this is another incentive for all of us to have excellent blood sugar control. And even if you have pre-diabetes, get out of that category. Get out of that category. It's not a good category to be in. An article published in the Neurology, the Brain Doctor journal, showed that even pre-diabetes increases our risk for dementia. So during this pandemic and for to lower our risk of all other diseases, glycemic control. And we're going to get into glycemic control by lowering carbs in our diet. I had no idea how high my diet was in carbs until I started looking at all the foods I was eating. And I realized, oh my goodness, my diet is, the majority of it is carbohydrates. And I started focusing on it being more on protein and fats, healthy fats. And so that's why this keto craze that's going on right now, folks, this is not a fad. Focusing more on a ketogenic diet, which you don't have to eat a bunch of meat to do that. I eat a ketogenic diet, but I do it primarily with plants and then a little meat, and eat healthy. So what we're finding is that we've been pushed carbs forever. Oh, eat cereals for breakfast, and oh, eat a bunch of oatmeal, and oh, eat a bunch of wheat bread and stuff. And we're finding out, no, that's not the case. What we need to do is lower our carbs and up our fat and protein. So glycemic control is key. Number 3, caloric restriction. Guess what, folks? We don't need to be eating all day long. This is incredible. One of the hottest things going right now in wellness, I can tell you, because I'm getting all these wellness feeds and wellness conferences I attend and stuff. One of the hottest things out there is fasting. And once again, fasting is not a fad. Fasting is about our health. We were not meant to eat all day long. You know, and that's what's happening. We get up in the morning and eat, and then at lunchtime we're eating again, and maybe we're even having a snack in the afternoon, and then we're having dinner, and then, oh, we're snacking on something before we go to bed. Folks, that's not natural, and we weren't meant to do that. You know, by starving ourselves occasionally and not eating, we burn all those carbs, and then our body goes, wait a minute, we need some calories. Oh, I guess I'm going to have to go burn that fat. And that's where you'll burn your fat, because your body's going, wait a minute, we've used up the carbs. We got to go to the stores. So caloric restriction is particularly fantastic if you want to lose weight also. And skipping meals, and this myth that breakfast is the most important meal, it's probably the worst meal. Because if you don't eat, then your body's going to be fasting all morning and eating later on. I can tell you, I haven't eaten yet today, and I feel awesome. I'm high on ketones, I'm energetic, and I haven't been eating all those carbs, upping my insulin level, and I feel like crap. So kind of check it out. The New England Journal of Medicine had a review article on this. That's the other biggie journal in the world, the New England Journal of Medicine and JAMA, the Journal of the American Medical Association. By far, those are the 2 leading journals in the world. And the New England Journal of Medicine had a review article on fasting this year. And to summarize it, and I did it in my blog, which I'll tell you about later, I summarized it in one of my weekly blogs. And they said, what body systems does fasting benefit? All of them. It helps our immunity, it helps our cardiovascular system, it helps our nervous system. It's amazing. But you have to know how to do this. But all of us, we can simply skip a meal. Who shouldn't be fasting? If you're a brittle diabetic, you're going to have to do this under a doctor's recommendation. And if you're below your ideal body weight, obviously, fasting may not be a thing for you. And if anybody has any questions on that, we can do that during the Q&A. Number 4, we need to move. Our body is 70% water, and it was meant to flow. And that's what we need to be doing. And the American Cancer Society just came out with their guidelines last month, which I also reviewed those guidelines in one of my weekly blogs that comes out every Sunday. I summarized the American Cancer Society guidelines on how to prevent cancer, how to lower your risk of cancer with your lifestyle. And one of those 4 recommendations by the American Cancer Society was exercise. And they recommended that we should be exercising about 300 minutes a week. 300 minutes a week. In other words, we ought to be exercising just about every day, which is what I and my husband, Dr. Waxman, do. We just exercise every day. That way we don't have to argue with it, because we get our morning going by getting our body going. And so if anybody has any questions on that, let me know. But movement is critical. It ups our immunity, gets our lymphatics going, and clears the bad stuff out of our body. Not to mention the fact that it lowers body fat, and it's toxins where our fat is stored. Fat creates inflammation. Fat creates inflammation, and inflammation is the inciting factor in all disease. It's inflammation that causes a heart attack. It's inflammation that causes a stroke. It's inflammation that's killing people with COVID. So we want to be moving. Number 5, lower stress. Lower stress. Stress affects our immunity. Stress affects the hormones in our body, our neurotransmitters. And there's a reason I and Dr. Waxman meditate every morning. Calm the system down, lower the steroid level. Get our nervous system, our immune system, our cardiovascular system settled down. And this also is one of the hottest things going, mindfulness meditation. Now, some people refer to that as mindfulness meditation. Some people refer to it as thoughtfulness. Some people refer to it as prayer, connecting with a higher power, deciding what you are called to do. What is your role in this world? So everybody calls it something different, whatever it means to you. But I actually have a lecture just on that, lowering stress and meditation. But I just want to introduce the topic today. There's a reason millions of people in the United States meditate every day, because it works. For me, it's a game changer. Of all the things that I've done to pursue wellness, the one that has been key to me making all the other changes and improving my life has been mindfulness-based stress reduction, and it's been awesome. The other thing is sleep. Sleep. Americans really don't get enough healthy sleep. And that's a topic in and of itself, not only how many hours you're in bed, but the quality of sleep you're getting while you're in your bed. But a lot of people have sleep disorders. They're snoring because they have sleep apnea and everything. We need to make sure that we're getting adequate sleep and not driving ourselves crazy with all these things that we put on our plate. And Jeff and I were doing that. We're both doctors and thinking we could function on only a few hours of sleep. And we realized, no, that is not healthy. And now you don't mess with my sleep. I'm a very busy person, but I am going to get my 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night. Now, the other thing I want to briefly talk about are supplements. Are there any supplements you should be taking? Well, I'm all for just not taking a bunch of stuff and working on your lifestyle. A couple of things have come up that we don't have definitive data on, but you might want to think about because they're simple and they won't harm you. One is something even like taking vitamin D, particularly if you have a low vitamin D level. But vitamin D, taking 1,000 international units a day is not going to be harmful, and you can get it at any store, okay? Walmart, CVS, and just in HEB, any place is something that you may want to consider. And the other thing some people are saying is taking a gram of vitamin C. All right, and that, once again, that's not harmful. Now, there's also people that are pushing taking things like zinc and selenium, which you can buy. You can actually buy things at natural grocers and at other health food stores that have the selenium, extra selenium and zinc, plus the vitamin D and vitamin A and stuff all in one, so that you're just taking one. So those are some of the things that are coming out. They don't appear to be harmful at all, and they might be helpful. They might be helpful. But for a lot of us who eat primarily a plant-based diet, I eat so many vegetables, it's incredible. It may not matter as much, but particularly if you're someone where your diet is not as good as it should be, those are some things to consider. If anybody else has any other questions on that during the Q&A, we can go over that. But anyway, these are a lot of the things that Living Well Aware is all about. And what I'd like to do is also talk about what should we be pursuing. And I think that we should be pursuing an optimal state of health. Why wouldn't we all want to do that? Our earthly existence is pretty brief, but while we're here, if we're healthy, we're just going to be able to do more of the stuff we want to do. And so I love the World Health Organization, although we're not funding it anymore. They actually do some pretty good stuff. And I love their definition, though, of wellness. And it's an optimal state of health. And it's not just our physical health, it's our emotional health, our social health, our financial health. And it's also our spiritual health, whatever that means to you, okay? You know, it's all 5 of these areas, all 5 of these areas. And you want all 5. I know a lot of people who are physically, they physically fit, they look amazing, but emotionally they're a wreck. You know these people, all right? Or some people, their finances are totally out of order, or their social health, their relationships are in disarray. And so, you know, if you want all 5 of these, because when 1 or 2 of them are out of disarray, your whole life is a mess. So I love it that they're focusing on working on all 5 of these. And why do you want an optimal state of health? To fulfill your role expectations. But here's what happens. People go, well, listen, I'm just too busy. I don't have time to take care of me. And I go, no, that's not the definition. You want an optimal state of health so you can take care of everybody else. The healthier I am, physically, emotionally, socially, financially, spiritually, I can help so many more people. Oh, tons more people. And I'm more productive, I'm more creative, and I'm happier doing it. So to us, taking care of ourselves is not selfish. By doing so, we're going to also be a role model for other people. Yeah, a role model. So I love this definition of wellness by the World Health Organization. And you might say, I wonder what my wellness score is. What is your score physically, emotionally, socially, financially, spiritually? Well, the World Health Organization didn't have a wellness score, so I came up with one. And and I got a lot of people to help me with this. I got psychologists, fitness experts, physicians, counselors, financial gurus, spiritual directors, and we came up with a wellness score. And if you go to livingwellaware.com, the score is at the bottom of the homepage, and you don't even have to give me your email address. It's free. And you can score yourself and see how you score physically, emotionally, socially, financially, and spiritually. And once again, it's all subjective. It's all subjective. In fact, some of the healthiest people I know score themselves really low because they're really tough on themselves. And I'm like, that's good. I'd rather you score yourself low. And I'll see some people who I don't think that they're that healthy, and they score themselves high. So once again, it's subjective. And I challenge you to be careful and maybe underscore yourself. Because that way, if you make changes, then your score will go up. So once again, it's subjective. And just to let you know, the top score would be 25, because there's 5 areas of wellness: physical, emotional, social, financial, and spiritual. And the top score in each category is 5. So 5 times 5 is 25. I can tell you, I finally got my score above 20, and that's after pursuing this for 12 years. 12 years. And one part of it is I am pretty tough on myself. All right. I'm not where I want to be emotionally. I'm not where I want to be spiritually. I'm not quite where I want to be physically. I'm not quite where I want to be socially. I want to get better. If I score myself too high, it's like, hey, why work on that? So I challenge everybody to go to livingwellaware.com and print out the wellness score and see where you are. Okay. Let's see if I can get this going again. There we go. And I've been talking to you about my my weekly blog. It's called 1 Minute Wellness, and it's free. It's free. Every Sunday at 10 a.m., you'll get an email, and it's called 1 Minute Wellness because it takes you about 1 minute to read my health tip of the week. And okay, sometimes it's 2 or 3 minutes if I get wordy, okay, but never more than that, all right? And so that's a free health tip. And that's also where I update people on guidelines. That article I talked to you about on fasting from the New England Journal of Medicine, that's where I reviewed it. I send out the review in the blog. The article from the American Cancer Society that just came out last month on the 4 things we can do to lower our risk of cancer was in that weekly blog. So to sign up, you just text 22828 and enter capital L, capital W, capital A, or you can put your email on the homepage. So we'd like to get it out. So I want to end with just slam dunking what I call the 11 essential elements that lead to health and happiness. This is what Living Well Aware is based on. When my husband and I started pursuing wellness 12 years ago, April 2008, when he drugged me to that wellness conference, kicking and screaming, which was life-changing, we started writing down, okay, we're both doctors, we're both professors, let's start making a list of what are the things that we can do that we know if we do these, we're going to be healthier and happier and be able to help even more people. So we started making a list, and for a while we had 7, then 8, 9, and finally we got up to 11, and that was it. And so what are the 11 essential elements to health and happiness? That's actually the basis of my book and my workbook. The book just slam dunks a quick chapter on each one, but the workbook goes into more detail. And for people who don't read and are in their cars a lot, it's all on audio. But I'm going to slam dunk these now. Essential element number 1 is normal numbers now. You know, we need to get our numbers in a normal range. And what am I talking about? Your blood pressure, your cholesterol, you know, your blood glucose, your weight. Thousands of people are going to die this week. And we're thinking, yeah, they're going to die of COVID too, but thousands are going to die from preventable diseases because their numbers were not normal. You know, what's the number 1 cause of death in America? Self-induced disease. We're killing ourselves with unhealthy lifestyles. So normal numbers now. And if you want to know what the numbers are, on the homepage, and it's free, and you don't even have to give me your email address, there is a sheet called Partner with Your Provider. And all the normal numbers are there: normal blood pressure, cholesterol, triglycerides, hemoglobin A1C. There's the normal numbers, and you put in what your numbers are. And if you don't know what your numbers are, call your healthcare provider. And there's also some lifestyle questions. But this one worksheet covers all 7 of the American Heart Association health metrics. The normal numbers, how much you should be exercising, and what your diet should be like, and things like this. So it's all on that one page. And once again, it's on the home page. Essential element number 2, critique caloric consumption. We've just briefly touched on this. I love talking to groups about really how to eat healthy and how to implement this. Number 3, make movement mandatory. We all ought to be exercising most days of the week. I've just decided to do it every day. Essential element number 4, address adverse addictions, halt harmful habits. As you can see, I'm into alliteration. All of us have harmful habits, every one of us. None of us are that perfect version that God created us to be, none of us. And so the question is, my harmful habit may be different than yours. For some people, their harmful habit is physical inactivity. For some people, it's eating too much food and crappy food. For some people, it's smoking, drinking, gambling, pornography, whatever. For some people, it's spending too much time on Facebook or in front of the TV screen. But we all have some habits that we can work on. In my workbook, I list 30 harmful habits. I just circle the ones I need to work on. But we all have these excuses. And what's the number 1 excuse we all have for not taking care of ourselves? The number 1 excuse is, I don't have enough time. And another excuse is, Dr. Sulak, I don't have enough money. I don't have enough money to buy healthy food, or maybe get a personal trainer or a health coach or whatever. Well, if I don't have enough time and money are the excuses, that's why Jeff and I came up with essential element number 5, meticulously manage money and minutes. It's a critical aspect of our health. People get in trouble because they're not managing their time and they're not managing their minutes. And as my husband always says, if you want to put something good in the schedule, something bad is going to have to go. For us, it was giving up TV, which is one of the best things that we've ever done. Boy, do you have a lot of time to do healthy stuff. But everybody has to work to look at their own schedule. The truth is, we spend an enormous amount of money and minutes consumed with superficial appearance and seeking entertainment, thinking it's going to buy us happiness, and it's obviously not working. Rates of depression and anxiety are going up in the United States, and that was before the pandemic. Suicide rates before the pandemic were going up in all age groups. all age groups. So even though we're one of the most prosperous countries in the world, we're one of the unhappiest countries in the world, and we're thinking all this stuff can buy us health and happiness, and it's not working. If we manage our money in minutes, we're going to be able to do essential element number 6, which is key, and that's graciously give our gifts. As Jeff and I were pursuing wellness, it was obvious the happiest people are the most giving people, or I should say the most sharing people. I just want to share, we should all want to share what we have with others. Yeah, and that's what it's all about. Sharing our time, sharing our talents, sharing our treasures with people. But one thing that we really want to give is our unconditional love. Our unconditional love, and that's a topic in and of itself. Essential element number 7, not only give, but we need to forgive. Family, friends, foes. The toughest person to forgive, though, may be ourselves. Anger destroys. All we have to do is turn the TV on today. Anger destroys, forgiveness heals. And no matter what the issue, forgive. And all the major religions of the world are based on the concept of forgiveness. Once again, this is a topic I love to talk about. How are we going to keep from being dangerously distracted and diverted in a world that tells us, no, we don't need to give, we need to have. Oh, we don't need to forgive, we need to get even. We're going to do it by passionately pursuing our purpose and priorities. Why was I created? What's my purpose in life? What are my talents? Who am I? And I truly believe, Stephen Covey, that vision, purpose, values is more powerful, more significant, more influential than the baggage of the past or the noise of the present. Having a mission statement. Why am I here? Why do I get up every day? What's my purpose in life? And it took me going to a wellness conference to really look at my life and decide things that I wanted to do. And it caused me to change my career and do a lot of other things. If we continuously pursue habits that lead to health and happiness, we're going to be able to do number 9, stifle stress, sever suffering. Anybody stressed out there? Yeah, stress is what's really killing us. In fact, it's one of the most common words out there. I hear from my patients, oh, I'm stressed, I'm stressed, I'm stressed. And it's, once again, it's not good for our health, and it doesn't solve anything. And once again, that's a topic. In fact, it's probably one of my most commonly requested talks around the country is stifle stress, sever suffering. How are we going to do it? By doing number 10 is one of the things we can do. And that's periodically pause, ponder, plan, pray, whatever you call it in your world. My husband and I call it RPM, reflection, prayer, and meditation. And once again, it's something we do every day. Turn everything off, and we pay a visit to ourselves. And for us personally, a visit with a higher power, on being grateful for everything that we have. It's so easy for us to focus on the negative today, and we forget that there are millions, if not billions, of the people in the world that would love to have what we have and have the life that we have. And for us to take time to pay a visit to ourselves and what we're called to do. I love Helen Keller. The only thing worse than being blind is having sight, but no vision. And the truth is, to be it, you have to see it. To be able to visualize the person we want to be. Essential element number 11, seek and secure support. Who is on your team? If I have seen further than others, it's by standing upon the shoulders of giants. And the only way I am where I am today is because of so many people that guided me along the way. From my teachers who talked me into going to college, to my professors who talked me into going into medical school, to my chairman here at Baylor Scott and White, Dr. Baker, Dr. Schul, and now Dr. Bates. These guys are amazing. But my greatest mentors were my parents, both amazing people, hardworking, and who really gave me the framework for my life. And the shoulders I stand on today are my amazing husband who drugged me into wellness and who is actually the mastermind behind Living Well, but he's too busy operating, although he's actually an amazing speaker and gives a lot of incredible talks. One of them on the 10 things people do to live into their hundreds. It's an incredible talk. So there are 5 aspects of wellness, and you want all 5. If you can imagine, if you only have 2 or 3 of them, your temple's going to fall. It's not going to be very sturdy. We want all 5, and we need to focus on all 5. And none of us are going to get better unless we admit something we're doing or believing needs to be changed. That's what's going to be key. So today, you're investing in wellness. I hope I've given you some information and maybe a little bit of inspiration, I'm hoping. And the next, if for you, is the next step is implementation. Information without implementation is sad. And we don't want to let that happen. Now, too many people know what they're supposed to do, but we don't do it. And that's our challenge, is for all of us to implement what we know is going to be good for us. The question is, you have to ask yourself, what would your life be like? What would your life be like if you really started focusing on your wellness, physically, emotionally, socially, financially, and spiritually? What would your life be like if you started implementing these 11 essential elements to health and happiness? I can tell you the answer is you'd be more productive, more creative, be able to do more things in life, help more people. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. All right. And Jeff and I started pursuing this journey, as I mentioned, April 2008, and we are not done. In fact, sometimes we feel like we've just begun. There's so many things that we can do out there. But you got to have a why. Why in the world would you want to do this? You've got to sit down and like, why would I want to do this? And you have to have your own personal list of why. I can tell you a few months ago, I added a new why to my list, and that's a new grandbaby, a new granddaughter. And it's a big why for me, because I know that I can't prevent bad things from happening for all these beautiful women in my life. But one thing I can do is try to be an incredible example for these women and all the people I encounter in my life. So these elements to essential health and happiness, they're simple, but they're not easy. So I hope that you'll kind of keep in touch with us. I hope some of you will sign up for the blog. And I'm going to challenge you to make 2020 your best year ever. I know we're in a pandemic, but you have the opportunity to make this your best year ever. In obstacles come opportunities. And believe me, I'm jumping at this. I'm going, you know what? I don't know if I'll get another opportunity like this again. It's forced me to sometimes stay at home more, get some stuff done, and actually rewrite an adolescent curriculum. So I challenge you to make 2020 one of your best years ever in some aspects of your life. Now, you're not going to be able to in all of them. You're going to have some difficulties, but say, you know what? I can make this part of my life better. And I hope you'll travel this journey with us, because the goal of Living Well Aware is let's live healthy, let's live happy, let's live holy, so we can lift humanity. So I want to thank Ashley and everyone at the Temple Bioscience Health and Research for having me do this. And once again, I hope some of you guys will sign up for our blog. And so I'm going to turn this over to Ashley and see if there's any questions in the chat box.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Sulak. It was just a beautiful presentation. I know I'm inspired, so thank you so much.
All right.
I hope all 32 of us on the call today are going to be changed for the better. We're getting a lot of great comments in, bravo on the presentation, all that good stuff. I think, a question for me is there a point at which you can take too much vitamin D? I know you mentioned the supplements. Is what vitamins are like, don't take too much because it can have adverse effects?
Sure. You would have to take a heck of a lot of vitamin D to overdose. I just don't think that there's, and the thing about it is you don't know how much vitamin D you should take unless you get your vitamin D level checked. Some people have their vitamin D level checked and it's normal. Maybe because genetically, it's they can handle vitamin D easier. They're out in the sun a lot. Some people get it and it's extremely low, and they have low bone density. Your bones need vitamin D to hold on to the calcium and to put calcium back into the bones. So if someone's unsure, just get their doctor to order a vitamin D level. But you would really have to take a lot of vitamin D. You're not going to overdose by taking 1,000 international units every day. No way.
Okay. And Donna asked, what about vitamin K?
Vitamin K, very good. Wow, I'm impressed. Vitamin K is actually the number one treatment for vitamin K1 and K2 is the number one treatment for osteoporosis in Japan. So vitamin K, and most of us most people are deficient in that. So vitamin K is another vitamin. Whether it's going to help with infections or anything, we don't know. But for your bones, vitamin K. Very good question.
Great.
And once again, if you're taking a standard formulation that you can get at a lot of health food stores, you're not going to overdose on it.
I received a question about there was a new pink eye symptom that's come up, particularly in children, I believe, for COVID-19. What is the backing on that, and what does that mean for us?
You know, I don't know. What we're doing is the longer that we get into this, we're finding some unusual things. Like it was months into it before we found out that children could have this weird, unusual thing. And so this inflammation can attack any part of our body. It's just the lungs. That's why it's called severe acute respiratory syndrome. Because it primarily attacks the lung, but it can attack any part of the brain. Oh my goodness, some people can have horrible headaches, even strokes, and the virus could be even enter through our eye, although mostly it's going to be through our respiratory system, breathing air, but even through their eyes. So eye complications are possible, but not that common at this point.
Mm-hmm. And Tammy, our executive director, asked, what would you recommend starting a food diary to make you aware of what you are eating? And what would you recommend the first step should you take to change your diet?
Sure. Oh, very good questions. I think food diaries are great because sometimes we don't realize how much food we're taking in. And obviously that is the focus of a lot of weight loss programs like Weight Watchers, which is one of the most successful programs in the country. Me personally, I can never write all that stuff down. So I would have a tough time doing Weight Watchers. But if you're really trying to lose weight, for some people, that's key to just go, what am I eating? And then writing the number of calories down and then realizing, oh my goodness, they didn't realize that little handful of nuts was 300 calories, you know, even though it was just a few nuts. And so writing that down is good. I think if someone's trying to change their diet, first thing I would look at is look at the carbs. How many calories are you getting in breads, crackers, pasta, sweets, donuts, those things that are not allowed in my house anymore, all right, which used to be my, basic food consumption. Chips, just a few chips is a few hundred calories. So I would really look at things like that, and I would focus more on adding more vegetables. So lower the carbs. Like it used to be, I'd have a big baked potato on my plate and a big piece of meat, and there might be a few little vegetables. Now there's a lot of vegetables and there's some meat, but there's no potatoes. So I'm not saying I never eat those foods. It's just that I usually don't eat them. So I would look at lowering carbs. And after a while, once you lower your carbs, I would look at occasionally seeing if you can skip a meal. And for most people, the easiest meal to skip is breakfast, because most breakfast food, I can tell you, is bad. It's oatmeal, it's granola, it's cereals. It's just not good stuff.
And that's a good segue to our next question. Someone wants to ask, would you be able to address the positive and negative aspects of eggs? Is there a best way to prepare them?
Eggs got a bad rap for a long time as people were trying to push carbs down us, all right? And so fortunately, the food guidelines are slowly changing. So I don't think there's anything bad with eggs. It's just if you need to lose weight, you want to be eating one egg, not two, or not this huge omelet, all right, because you've got a lot of calories and a lot of fat there. So, and that's why, yeah, I eat eggs, but I might have one boiled egg, or I might have one easy over egg. So you can eat the eggs in various ways. If I am going to put the egg in the frying pan, I'll put it with a little coconut oil. I'll cook it with coconut oil. So now I think eggs got a bad rap. I'd definitely rather you be eating an egg for breakfast than a bowl of a high carb cereal.
And And for someone that is vegetarian or vegan, what would be the best way to get protein in your diet?
You could get protein in a lot of the grains, and there are a lot of grains that are gluten free, because people don't realize our wheat is just different today. It's grown differently. It's not the wheat that we used to have decades ago. So a lot of people have gluten sensitivity. They're not gluten intolerant. They're just gluten sensitive. And so trying to get some grains that are gluten-free, but you can get it in legumes, in grains, in nuts. There's a lot of ways you can get a lot of plant-based protein.
Great. And why is plain oatmeal discouraged to eat?
I think oatmeal is okay, just don't eat a lot of it. It's a lot of carbs. And once again, if you're after glycemic control, and as we age, we use up our insulin in our pancreas. So the amount of carbs you used to eat when you were younger, now you're older and your body can't keep the blood sugar level down. And then you become insulin insensitive. So your body has to pump out more insulin. And we now know insulin is inflammatory. You don't want inflammation in your body. And insulin prevents you from burning your fat. So once again, particularly if you need to lose weight, your body is not going to go to the fat stores as long as you're taking in carbs. You're taking in carbs with breakfast. You're taking in carbs with lunchtime because you went and had a sandwich. And then you're taking in carbs in the evening because you had pasta. So once again, oatmeal's okay. And I'm not saying I never eat it. But eating a bunch of it, like most days of the week for breakfast and all, you're just putting in a lot of carbs. And I'm really after glycemic control. Blood sugar control is key to our health.
Yeah, and I would ask, with all the different resources out there for people to turn to, as far as, the food groups to look after, the charts what are some of the good resources? And perhaps you could provide links in afterward, I could put in a recap. But what are some of the best resources that you rely on to look for the right foods to eat and how much you should be eating?
Sure. I think that there are some really good groups out there, and I can send you some of those links. One is Food Revolution. They're really into eating healthy. And there's some groups out there that are really promoting wellness. Now, sometimes you have to watch it. They can really get off on a tangent. Like, you would just eat this, it will prevent all diseases and it'll prevent all cancers. Well, no, that's not the case. And we're all going to die one day. All right. But they'll go overboard. But there are some good sources, and I'll send you some of those. One of them, actually, one of the best sources I'll send to you, and I'll send their website, was actually by John Robbins. Anybody familiar with Baskin Robbins?
Of course,
everybody knows Baskin Robbins. Well, John Robbins, when he was in his 20s, his father was one of the founders of Baskin Robbins. And John was supposed to take over this huge multi-million-dollar family business in his 20s, and he saw what was happening to his family, and he totally left the business, left all the money, and moved to California and started eating healthy, living healthy, kind of like a hippie style almost. And he actually wrote, his first book was A Healthy Diet for America, and it was a New York Times bestseller. But he's one of the guys that really started promoting we need to start eating healthy and really be focusing on a plant-based diet. Like I said, a lot of these people focus on totally plants, and that's not me. I can tell you I am not a vegan, and I don't intend on being one. I'm not knocking anyone who is, by the way. That's fine. That's fantastic, as long as you're getting in plenty of protein and B12 and things like that, and that's cool. But I think that I'll send a couple of those in. And plus, I'm going to send a PDF to you, Ashley, of some of the key slides from this presentation.
Great. Yeah, and one last question. For someone who may have difficult time following a new path to health, what's a great first step for that person that might have a hard time committing?
Sure. I think the main thing is, first of all, make a commitment to focus on your wellness. And the first step is visualize the life you want to have. People, we don't stop to think about this. We don't stop to think, Go turn everything off, go find a quiet place, sit down, and visualize the best version of yourself. Just close your eyes and physically, what is the best version you were created to be? What does that person look like? Emotionally, what does that person look like? Maybe being calm while everybody else is going crazy. If you're stressed out, maybe being calm. What's the best version of yourself socially? Pick a key relationship. And not what does that other person need to do? What do you need to do? Financially, what's the best version of yourself? For a lot of us, it's being more giving because we have more than we know what to do with. And spiritually, what's the best version of yourself? In other words, what is your connection with everyone else in the world and what are you called to do? And if we'll just stop and picture the person we're supposed to be, that's key. Because guess what? That's going to tell us everything else we should do. All of a sudden, our life will start to happen. So the first thing is decide who you want to be. Second thing is sign up for my blog and I'll help you get there. It's free.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Patsy, Dr. Sulak. I feel like I know you already. I'm so excited to get your wellness tips. And this was just really, really phenomenal. I know I have goosebumps after this presentation. I'm excited to change my world.
I appreciate the opportunity because I want to get this message out to businesses, organizations. Several school districts have lined me up to do their convocations or their keynote addresses for all their employees. Some of them were going to do it virtually. Some of them still want me in the room, which I'm a little bit leery about because I want to get this message out to people. So you've got my contact information. Let us know how we can help you. And my husband is also, I think, a better speaker than I am. He is amazing. He is an inspiration to me, and he is the mastermind actually behind Living Well Aware. So let's get this message out. And folks, please, my last message, please get the message out. Mask, do work. Let's do the social distancing. Let's watch getting together in large crowds. Let's get this under control so we can get our kids back to school. If over the next month we can lower this infection rate, then come September 8th, which looks like when most of the schools in our area are going to be starting, and I'm so happy they delayed the start, that we can lower this infection rate, get our kids back to school safely, and we can get closer to being a little bit normal before hopefully we'll have a vaccine, hopefully by the end of this year or the beginning of next year. Let's keep our fingers crossed. So until then, let's all up our wellness and be safe. And as like I say to all my audiences, onward.
Thank you so much, Patty. You did an amazing job. I knew you would. Thank you, thank you, thank you. People already are saying invite her back to do another talk. So you and I will have to chat.
All right, well, everybody out there,
Great day, everybody.
Yeah.
Stay safe, wear your masks, and we'll see you next month. Bye.
And visit us online. Thanks.